Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Lighthouse podcast. My name is Alex. I'm here with my co-host and good friend, Danny Silva. Today, we have a good friend in the show, a friend that we admire deeply, a friend that we're always glad to be around. He's got this immense drive to be successful in life and to make other people successful with him. Without a further ado, Mr. Carnell Newsome. Carnell, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for that awesome introduction. So glad to be here, and thank you guys for inviting me to be here. And man, I'm looking forward to deliver a lot of value today. So appreciate you for inviting me.
What do you think of Carnell? That's what I think of Carnell. What do you think of Carnell?
I love Carnell. Actually, I've been working by his side for quite a while now, different clients, and this is not the first rodeo. I've actually interviewed you before.
Yeah.
On what you do, which is extremely important for what Alex and I do as well. That's why we partner up with you. And one of the things that Alex and I always talk about, we always want to partner up with people who has that same energy that we do, and that at the end of the day, we're just looking to impact lives. And you fall right into that category of people who we choose to be surrounded by. Can you kind of like just give us a brief description of what you do and how long you've been doing?
Yeah.
And we're going to dip right into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, again, thank you, gentlemen, for inviting me to be here today. I feel so excited and privileged that you guys even invited me. And, my background is I was a loan originator many, many years ago. When I got into the mortgage industry, we know what happened in 2008, 2009. We went through a recession. The real estate market fell apart. So in order for me to make a living during that time, I had to either live off my savings, find another job, or I had to get creative. So I got introduced to this credit business from a real estate friend of mine. He's seen how hard I was working with people just to make an impact, like you said earlier, to help them to get across the finish line so they can actually get a home. Fast forward, I ended up falling in love with the industry, and I started doing it full time. So that's how I got started. Since then, with my mortgage background and me knowing about credit, I've been able to help a lot of people, not just in Connecticut, but nationwide, to understand the importance of credit and how it can help them to get the right home. Because as you know, that credit determines your interest rate. So if you have a low credit score, you may not get the most favorable mortgage loan. And if you don't get the most favorable mortgage loan, you might have a higher payment. So that's a little bit about me. Man, I'm just excited to be here. Man, I'm ready to educate as many people as I can today. So thank you.
That's awesome. And the reason why we love you and we admire the person you are is because we spend most of our days providing value to our clients. And we like Danny said, we like to associate ourselves with other people who do the same. I hate working with some other industry professionals, So, I'll take a buyer off the street. Anybody who tells me, hey, I want to buy a house. Okay, no problem. Come and meet me. I'm going to give you an hour worth of my time. Whether you're ready today or 5 years from now, I don't care. Let me give you this information, right? And sometimes we'll work with other professionals in the industry who are just sign here, sign here, sign there. I'm like, no, that's not how we work because we explain everything. And we expect other partners to do the same thing. And you do all of that, right? You're taking people in and you're educating them about credit, right? Tell me how your day-to-day with a client works, right? So I'll send somebody to you. Carnell, this person is, really eager to buy a house, has great income, great reserves, but the credit is not where it's supposed to be. Here's a new client. What happens from that point on?
Yeah, good question. I'm glad you mentioned that, how you pretty much, when you bring a client on, it's not about just signing papers and having a client. It's about building that relationship and educating them. So when a client comes to me, the first thing I want to do is I want to find out the solution. Like, what got you into the situation and what's holding you back? Maybe they lost their income. Maybe they're irresponsible. Maybe they need a budget. And then once I find out the solution, what's causing them to have bad credit, it now starts with the educational process. Let's educate the client on things that they didn't know about credit, because we know that when it comes to credit, would you agree that it's one of those subjects never taught to us as kids? It wasn't taught to us in elementary school, junior high school, college, grad school, nowhere. In fact, the state of Florida has now started to implement financial literacy about time, in the school. So with that being said, when a client comes to me, I want to find out what got them in the situation, what can we do to reverse that situation, and then from there, I start with the credit repair process.
So you tackle, you don't even tackle the repair process first, you tackle the issue first.
Absolutely.
Right. That's awesome. That's very important in the process.
You find out what the root of the problem is, and then you go from there. I remember when we talked about this the first time around, and I said, how important is credit?
Yeah.
And I remember, I don't know if you remember your answer back then. You were like, it's right up there with oxygen. It's right up there with oxygen.
Absolutely.
And it's so true, because we actually run a program here at the office called the Rent-Free Program.
I love it.
Where, we've
heard of
worked
it.
Absolutely.
We actually worked a couple of clients together through that program.
Yeah. They became a homeowner.
Became a homeowner.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, exactly. And it's 90% of the clients that we get through that program, the first thing that we have to tackle is credit. And a lot of them just don't understand that, like, it could be just, some of them will take 6 months to a year to get everything organized. But a couple of them is just, hey, let's just make sure that you're paying you're not racking up your credit cards and you're having hundreds of $1,000s sitting in your bank account, thinking that, oh, hey, I'm spending all this money on my credit cards, and the credit card companies think that I'm doing something fine, so my credit is going to be good, but their credit is just going down.
Utilization.
Yeah.
So there's obviously you have your team and you've been doing this for a long time. So there's some easy people to work with that in a couple weeks or a month you can figure everything out. And my question is, like, what was the worst that you've ever had to work with, but you did work, and how long it took?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Everybody's credit situation is different, and not everyone is a client to sign up for credit repair, because if they're not financially stable, adding them to a credit repair program is not going to help them, as I said earlier. So I had clients that, didn't have any jobs, had a little bit of savings, but they need those savings to pay their bills. So those clients I wouldn't particularly take at the moment. I would educate them, tell them some free things they could do on their own to kind of rehabilitate the credit. But on the average, the longest client I ever had, I think it took him about a year, about a year to improve his credit. And this person had a lot of bad things up there that were recent, things that are a little bit older. It's a little bit quicker of a process because, it changed from one hand to the other hand. And when you have debts like open collections and those collections get sold or purchased by third parties, there's a technicality under the Fair Credit Reporting Act that you can get those items deleted because the creditor, number one, doesn't have a right to hold the debt, and also the credit agency is not verifying that the debt really belongs to the client. So there's a breach in there. So you're able to leverage certain laws to dispute those things to get those things permanently deleted. Now, someone within the last year, a lot of times those accounts are still with the same account holder. So it makes it a little bit more difficult because now there's no breach. So what do you do in a case like that? So now you have to reach out to the original creditor. You got to say, hey, I know I owe you this debt. I'm willing to pay you, but I don't have the full amount of money. Okay, great. If I pay you XYZ in return for a file deletion, and that's the magic word, a file deletion, most of these companies will take it. Some of them won't. So that's why I said my worst client, usually about a year. On average, usually about 4 months to 6 months, people are good to go.
But I think in this process, what I've learned, I think in part from you, it's very important not to agree that is yours.
Yes.
Right? So talk to a professional before you actually call the collection companies yourself, right? Because the moment you call in and you take ownership of all that debt, there's nothing else for a long time that you can do, correct?
Correct. Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that. A lot of times when third parties call you, these toll-free numbers call you, and they'll let you know the call's being recorded and this is an attempt to collect a debt. And a lot of people will hang up. They're like, hey, I don't have the money. I'm just going to hang up. You don't have to hang up, guys. Just pick up the phone, and just know that the law is on your side. And all you got to say is this: is that, ma'am, sir, listen, I know you're calling me for this debt. I'm not verifying my spelling my last name. I'm not verifying my address. If you say I owe you any money, send me something in writing. They're gonna say, well, tell me your address. No, if you got my information, you should know my address, right? You're not gonna trick me to admitting anything. Just send it to you in writing and cease and desist with the call, right? There's a Telecommunication Act that if you tell the creditor to cease and desist with calling you, especially on your cell phone, they can't call you anymore. And if they do call you, they can get sued. So what they'll do from there is they'll send you a letter in the mail. And that's what you want. And the reason why is because documentation always beats conversation. Now you can look at the letter and say, wait a minute, I know I owe this amount, but I didn't owe this amount. So,
$400 worth of fees in here.
Right. Where'd you get this from? And who are you? Wait a minute. So, so when someone calls you, just to know the law's on your side. You don't have to verify anything. Just ask them to send it to you in writing. Cease and desist with the call so they can no longer call you anymore.
That's awesome. That's some valuable information there.
Yeah, really valuable. So for even a lack of a better expression, a lot of people are held hostage by a lot of these companies then, right? Because they think that they owe that much, but then like when you come in and you're like, hey, listen, but we can tackle this. We can write like letters of explanation and everything like that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, Alex and I, we deal with this so much. Like I guess probably like top 2, top 3 problems that we encounter is credit. You know what I mean? And that can affect you in so many ways. Even rentals, for example, if you don't have, what would you think? Like, if you don't have,
I mean,
over
a 700 right now is a low score in rentals because the competition is so crazy.
Yeah, 700 is a low score. You can't get approved for a credit card. You can't get approved for a car loan. So, having your credit life in order, it'll help you so much. Like even like the people, for example, that I just mentioned about having hundreds of thousands of dollars in their bank account, but their credit does not show that they can pay, does not show that they're well qualified, and they're like, oh, but look how much I have in my account. How come and I'm not getting qualified to buy this house or to even rent somewhere, or whatever the case may be. I think that's when you come in, and that's why we do what we're doing here, to educate people, and to let them know that this is right up there with oxygen, like you said. It's so important. You could see like people sometimes that don't have the hundreds of $1,000s in their account, a lot less, but they take care of their credit. They understand credit. I have a good friend of mine that he knows a whole ton about credit, right? Like credit cards and how you can take advantage of these things and those things. And the guy, just because he has a good credit, he's got like a couple credit cards that he charges, but he has the money. Like it's not like Dave Ramsey always talks about, if you don't have the money, don't charge it, right? Every time I mention Dave Ramsey, like Alex likes it, but he just, the guy, because of credit, now he gets a couple of free vacations every year because of that.
Doing it the smart way.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it really goes back to what Carnell was saying in the beginning. We need to be educated first on all of this. It's not only educated in credit, it's educated in finances, which, like you mentioned before, it's not being taught in middle school, not in high school, and oftentimes not in college. And I think that's where our society fails is, we don't push our legislators enough to implement different curriculum to the schools. I'm glad Florida's doing it. John Maxwell, great writer and leadership guy, is also pushing this to a few more states in the South, where his company is going to be in the schools teaching leadership skills and finance skills, which is also great. But like we need a whole generation to recover from the last 2 or 3 generations that weren't teaching this to children, right? And when you bring it back to somebody in their early 20s or even late teens, in early 20s, they're much more prone to make stupid decisions with their credit and then now be held hostage by the system where you go, I mean, you know these numbers off the top of your head. You go to a car dealership and you have a 500 credit score. How much are you going to pay in interest?
Right, yeah.
20%.
Easily.
Yeah.
with a down payment.
With a down payment. But if you're not taught well, that car dealership or whatever you're buying may tell you, don't worry about what you're going to pay. Worry about the payment. Does the payment fit your, budget. Your budget?
Right.
Which we're always going to be in this, like we're always going to be chained to this system of never getting
cycle.
out of exactly,
cycle, yeah.
and never actually prospering in life. Right, and a lot of it is due to a single digit on your credit report.
Right.
I mean that thing. If you like look at housing payment, for instance, is your credit could determine $200 to $300 or $400 in difference on a monthly payment. Imagine that's $5,000 every year over 30 years.
Yeah. It's a lot of money.
$150,000.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Yeah. We do the math sometimes with some of our clients. Here's what you're going to pay if you qualified with this interest rate. But if your credit is a little bit better, because there's a difference there.
Yeah.
Like if you're premium rate over 720, 740, you got a premium rate, and you'd be surprised what a point or two will make, the difference that will make over 30 years. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'll give an example. I had a client that purchased a property with a tax ID, right? And this is just an example of the difference that it makes. And he purchased that house at a 7% rate, which, by the way, and if you do your research and you read the articles and you really understand throughout history, we're talking about, I don't know, the article that I was reading it started like in the 1950s up to like the early 2000s. A good rate would be around the 6 or 7%. And the whole thing about, the government had to do what they have to do to bring the rates down and to keep the economy going, and God knows what's going to happen from now on. But I was still thinking that wasn't like that bad of a deal. Like we had Addie's client not too long ago buying something almost at 10%, and we're like, whoa, like now that's from what we're used to see in the past couple of years. But we're actually working. There's another bank that has been helping some of our clients here and there, and they have this program where tax ID loans are now, if you have a over 740 credit score with your tax ID, you can get 4.7%, 5%.
A little, yeah.
In like we don't want to say solid numbers in that neighborhood. So I asked him, I was like, why don't you refinance? Because he had just bought the house a year ago. So he didn't pay that much in interest. Yeah, it's a good time to refi. And he's like, well, for 5%, I pay 7%. I don't think it's worth it because... No, you know why he said that? He said, because I'm going to pay almost $9,000 in closing costs again. I was like, you can just roll that in. But I'm just gonna give you a quick math here on this whole thing. So I ran the numbers for 29 years because he had already paid for a year, for 29 years at 5%, and I reran the numbers at 7%, and the difference was $160,000. Wow. And I said to him, "Are you crying about $8,000 in closing costs and saving you $160,000 over 30 years?" The meaning of this whole thing here is education. Yeah. I educated him on taking a deeper look into the numbers and not just the $8,000 that he was gonna get. Right. And he didn't even have to come with that money out of pocket. Yeah. And I remember the payment, he was paying like $3,000 on with his mortgage, and now with that $8,000 included in his new payment, he was a little bit over $2,600. Wow. You know what I mean?
No brainer.
Yeah. So,
It's education, like you said. It's all about educating clients. And people don't know what they don't know. because no one's sitting down like us as professionals and really educating them, taking the time to do it. It's time consuming, but it's worth the relationship, and I believe that business shouldn't be about money. It should be about relationships. And by you doing that, you got a true friend. He's going to remember you. He's going to refer you his friends, his family, his coworkers, anybody he comes across, because you took that 10 minutes, 20 minutes to educate them.
Now, I'm happy you touched on that subject. You strike me as you're one of the most driven people that I've been able to meet. Right?
Appreciate it.
You're that. You've been, and I say this because you've been in the same industry for quite a few years now.
Yeah.
And you're always consistent. Like, if I think of a consistent person, I think of you, because no matter what time of the year, no matter what time of the day, you're present. You're always there. You're always helping people. You're always present online, on all social media platforms, which is super important. I friended you on LinkedIn the other day, and Carnell is like some 30,000 friends on LinkedIn.
Yeah. No, he's very consistent.
Yeah.
Like, he stays on people's mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what drives you? Let's leave let's leave the professional Carnell to the side. Let's talk about the personal Carnell. What drives you?
What drives me is the same thing that most people are dealing with: struggle. I grew up, I didn't have it easy. Even though my parents was there in my life, they didn't have it easy. They didn't have the best education, and I see them trade time for money. I see them do things to put food on the table. And then growing up, I said, man, I want to be someone in life. I thought I was going to be a financial planner. I knew I was going to make a difference. I wanted to do something. Most people want to be a police officer, a fireman, or something like that, or a cop. I knew I wanted to do something dealing with money or finance, and that's why I got to the mortgage industry. And my fuel was just, I never wanted to struggle. I seen what it's like to struggle. So when I talk to people, that's why I'm so humble and relaxed, and I'm so eager to go hard every day, because I know there's somebody out there that's looking for an opportunity. There's somebody out there that deserves better. There's someone out there that think they can't make it, and they can, because whatever you think is what happens. If you think you can't, then you can't. If you think you can, then you can. So that's what drives me every day, is that I know there's someone out there that I wish when I was younger that say, hey, young guy, shoot for the universe, not just the stars and the moon. Shoot for the universe. You got greatness in you. Never had that around me. So now I feel like it's my mission to spread that, to make an impact, to help people, to motivate people, show people it's a better way. There's nothing wrong with failing. A lot of people are scared to fail. And I'm like, the people that fail are the ones that are successful. Life is all about failing forward. If you don't fail for nothing, then you fail for everything. So you got to go out there every day and just shoot for your why. And my why is to never struggle. And I want to make sure that my son, who looks just like me, just a lighter version, he never struggles, right? And I want to make sure if he ends up having a family or anybody that's associated with me, friends, family, people that are watching, that they never struggle. And I tell people all the time, when I see them struggling, I say, I can help you. Like, how can you help me? You don't even know me. I said, I can help you. They're like, how do you know? I said, because I've been there. I coach people. I help people. Number one, it starts with belief. What do you believe in? Now, I'm not trying to get religious or anything, but I get up every day and I pray, right? I give up to God every day. That's my mindset. I get up every day, I do personal development. Why? Because personal development is going to help grow you every single day to be the better version of the person that you are. Without no personal development, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have that fixed mindset. So that's part of my why every day. That's why I get up and I'm wired. Some people get up in the morning and they're like mopey, they're miserable. Me, I'm like, I'm excited. I woke up today, now I have a chance to make an impact and help somebody else out. So
that's awesome.
Because you only have today, right?
Well, they say that you live every day and you die once, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I do.
Yeah.
Every day, I'm living a day. I'm living a dream. I'm excited. I know there's people out there, not to bring it up, but there's a war going on, and we're fortunate, so what are we crying about?
Yeah.
There's people out there that got no food, they got no water, no medication, their families being split, and, we have an opportunity, so that's what drives me every day.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm happy that you can, so in your credit organization, you get to take in some agents to come and work with you.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond just work because you're coaching them all the time, and you get to duplicate yourself in other people, right? You take somebody who may, even come in for credit work, but then they may be interested in the professional part of their business as well. And you take them in that way, but then you get to spend a lot of time with them, teaching them. I think that's what we need as men is we need to be able to, learn, which is what you did, right? So you come up and through your own struggles you learn, and you learn right from wrong. And I've the same way. I spent my 20s just spinning my wheels and not getting anywhere. And eventually, I think the clicking factor for me is I got married, and I'm like, okay, now I have a mortgage and a wife, and things have to change, and that's what clicked it for me. But in our learning process, we have to be able to bring along some other people with us as well.
Absolutely.
Right? We got to be able to coach.
Absolutely. And that's very instrumental. Sharing is caring. I tell my team all the time. So if you got something good, share it. Sharing is caring because it's all about impact. If you keep it to yourself, how do you want to be known in life? Do you want to be known as a person that no one knows? Or you want to be known as a person that made an impact and changed other people's lives? So yeah, I have some guys and girls that look for an opportunity where they can make an impact as well. Sometimes people are doing it part-time, full-time, but my whole goal is to give people a chance, give them an opportunity. I don't care what your past is like. It's all about what do you want to do now?
From here on out.
The only thing I ask when I'm working with people is that they do things with clean hands and a pure heart. If you do things with a clean and pure heart, then you got nothing to worry about. Why? Because God's going to bless you. And again, I don't want to get all spiritual and stuff, but
you can.
Okay.
And make yourself
Let
at
it
home.
out, my brother.
Yeah, well, God's going to bless you. If you believe in God, you put Him first in everything you do, you're going to be tested in the beginning because it's not going to be easy. If something's easy, it's not good.
And a lot of people expect to get out of a problem quickly, forgetting how long they took to get themselves in that problem, right? So you can't get out of something, easily if you've been doing the same thing repeatedly for, years and then got yourself in a hole. How can you expect to get out of that hole within, a couple of days, a couple of weeks, or a couple of months, right? So it takes time, just as long as it may take as long as it took you to get in there to get yourself out of there.
Absolutely.
But the important thing is you're moving, you're making like one step at a time, right? I remember I run these Spartan races or obstacle races, and sometimes you have this mile uphill, and my advice is don't look up because you're going to see how big this mountain is.
Right.
But then you're talking to a lot of other people, and there's one advice across the board is put your head down. It's one step after the other. It's one.
Nice.
So sometimes you're getting out of that hole is just that. It's like sometimes you're getting out of the credit hole.
Right.
It's because there's timing involved with fixing your credit.
Absolutely.
Right? And sometimes you just have to be patient. Attack it from every angle, but be persistent, be patient, persevere through however 1, 2, 3, 4 months until you get there. Same thing with my obstacles and in my races is put your head down and it's one step after another. And then in your coaching of your a lot of the agents that come work with you, it's the same advice, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And with the customers too, a lot of customers, they get frustrated. It's 3 months, they say my score went up and it went down, went up, went down. And I'm like, okay, well, how long did it take you to get where you got at? Yeah. It's not an overnight process. Your score may have went down due to a trade line, which is an active account that showed your payment history, which was probably negative at the time, or a collection account. It got removed, and 15% of your score is based on your age of credit history. So if a credit repair company comes in and they're deleting negative items off your credit, and you don't have any positive items on your credit that's increasing your credit score each and every month, your score will go down. It's a bad thing and a good thing. It's a good thing because the account is deleted. It's a bad thing because your score went down. So I tell people it's not an overnight process. You got to give it time. They're like, well, how much time is going to take you? Well, how long did it take you to get where you got at? It's not going to be half as bad, but it's going to take you time. That's why I tell most people 6 months, 8 months. 4 months to 6 months on average for people who can get a mortgage. But 6 months to 8 months, you should be pretty much good to go. And if your credit's like really bad, you spent like 10 years of just really doing bad things, you got to give it a year. Got to give it a year. And then one thing is that I tell people, not every bad thing is going to come off your credit. Now every bad thing will come up your credit. If any credit bureau companies guarantees they can delete every bad thing off your credit report, what you want to do is put on your best running shoes, tie them up as tight as you can. You want to run for the hills. What you want to work on is building the credit. As you add on the positive things, the older things as they get older, the less of an impact it has on your credit score. Now you can say, hey, Capital One, I know I owe you this money. I disputed it several times, didn't come off. I'm willing to pay you in return for file deletion. And that's the magic word, file deletion. And they'll say, okay, can you pay me within 30 days? And you gotta be ready to pay. And then once you do that, you got it in writing. Okay, remember, documentation beats conversation. Never do it without getting it in writing. Now you pay it, now they delete it. If they don't delete it, you got the letter from them, you just submit that letter to the credit bureaus and you force them to delete it. So, we talked about timing, and I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, Carnell. The credit bureaus, can you, like a lot of people may be watching this and they don't really understand, can you just briefly explain what are those three companies, whatever they're called, that will give the credit, and not only that, but can you touch a little bit on the third party companies that, Credit Karma and stuff like that? Like what's the difference in between those there?
So in the early 70s, FICO, William Earl and Bill Isaac, they came out with a score module called a FICO score, okay? And then their module was to gather data on me and you, and then they came out with this magical score, and it ranged from 300 to 850. And then they report your information to TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, who are the three largest credit agencies that has your information being reported to them. The credit agencies are not part of the government. People think that they're part of the government. They call them government authorities and stuff like that. They're actually privately owned companies. And they mark your information. Anytime you apply for a loan, you'll notice that usually within a week, you get a letter in the mail saying you've been pre-qualified for some type of auto finance loan or Capital One loan for XYZ. And you're probably saying, well, my score is going up. I'm getting all these pre-approval letters. Now realizing that these companies are marketing information to other companies, and then these other companies are sending out mail. It's a $1 billion industry. So the three big ones is TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. They're the three major credit agencies. And then it's FICO, how they use the score module to calculate your score. So their job is just to, is supposed to be verify your information. So I paid bills late before my life, I'll admit it, right? No one is perfect. And they never verified it. They never reached out to me with a letter, an email, or a text. They're supposed to have my information. And because they don't verify it, we're able to go in. We have a right by Congress to dispute those items. And when we dispute them, it's really important that you leverage the law and the right citation of law to say, hey, did you verify this account to see if it belongs to me, if it was accurate at the time it got reported? And if they didn't do it, then based on the law, they have to delete it, even if you owe the account. Now, I tell people, even if the account gets deleted, that's great. You still owe the debt to the creditor. So if Capital One, you have a loan with them, it doesn't relieve you from the debt, it just deletes it off your credit profile. Now, can you go to the bank and get another loan? The answer is yes. Why? Because they don't see it. But the creditor can still come in on the back end and they can try to do a wage garnishment. They can file a judgment against you. And so the way you stop that is you challenge that debt, okay? And what you do is you challenge that debt with a debt validation letter and you ask them, show me how you calculated, say, the money that you say that I owe. Show me that you're licensed in my state. And when I'm saying this is when Capital One sells it to a collection agency. So you're challenging the collection agency on their validity on how they got the data. And the collection agencies, most times, they're adding on extra fees because they're a collection agency. They're in the business of making what? Money. They bought the debt for pennies on a dollar. Maybe you owe $10,000. They bought it for $1,000. That big of a difference. And then they're going to add on interest, their fees, and stuff like that. So you have a right to question that debt. And now if that debt comes back based on the letter you sent to them and it's not accurate, which it won't, now you have a right to get that tossed out. So that's the credit agency's job. The credit agency's job is supposed to really verify information, but they don't. So that's why this places like mine's in place where we can come in and we can remove most of those negative items. I get people tell me all the time, if I have a car repo with this company, how can you really remove it if it belongs to me? It's because we're leveraging the loss. Like you driving down Main Street or wherever you live at, and you got caught driving a car that was unregistered, or better yet, you borrowed it, I mean, like you took it from somebody without their permission, you can get arrested by law. But if you went to court and you told the judge that the officer, never read me my rights, what must the judge do with that case? 8 times out of 10, they must dismiss it. It's the same thing with items on your credit report. If the law is broken, then they have to remove it. And most of the stuff people's credit report can be removed.
Gotcha. And is that where Credit Karma, like, do they feed off of those?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Credit Karma is okay. So people say Credit Karma gives me the wrong score. They don't. Their score is real. It's just that they use a different score module than what the banks use to give you a loan. See, the banks use FICO score. Credit Karma is using your Vantage score. They both range from 300 to 850. And what happened was, in 2006, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, they said, you know what? We want a piece of the pie. So they came up with their own scoring module called a Vantage score. And their scoring module is misleading for most people because they'll go to Credit Karma, see the scores of 740 or 700. They'll go reach out to Dan, reach out to Alex, hey, I'm ready to get pre-approved. And then they'll get the credit ran and it's a lot lower, and then they get disqualified. So when you go to Credit Karma, just look at the items in your credit report, but never really take the score in consideration if you're applying for a loan.
With my experience, it has always been 30 to 40 points lower. Yeah. That's like an average, 30 to 40 lower than, look, if you have a 740 on Credit Karma today, count it on a 700 or a 690, something like that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that. The best site, and I tell all my clients this, if you're applying for a mortgage loan or even a car loan, go to myfico.com. They're going to charge you about $30, maybe $35. You're going to pay for it, but they're going to give you all your FICO scores because there's several FICO scores.
Myfico.com?
Myfico.com. There you're going to pay for it. There's a free one you can go to. It's called annualcreditreport.com, but they don't give you your score. Okay, they'll give you all 3 of your credit profiles. Everything in there is accurate, but if you want to get your score, you got to pay $9.95 per credit agency, and then they're going to give you your Vantage score, which is misleading because you want your FICO. So if you want your real FICO score before you apply for the loans, and it's a soft inquiry because you're doing it online, you're doing it yourself, it's consumer initiated, they're going to give you all your FICO scores. So you're going to know your car FICO score, you're going to know your credit card FICO score, you're going to know your mortgage FICO score. So now when you go to the lender, you can say, hey, I got a 720, here's my score. What can you offer me based on my score before you pull my credit? So that what that does is it saves you from those hard inquiries. Now, for the people that are watching, it's not staring, but I do recommend that you listen to your real estate agents. Listen to your realtors because your realtor is going to give you 3 choices usually. They're going to give you 3 lenders that knows mortgages. Because if you go to the banks, they're great, but some of the banks offer programs that the lenders can't. The lenders offer programs that the banks can't.
Right.
Because that's all they specialize in is mortgage lending. So, but again, just go to myfico.com. It saves the lender hassle. It saves the realtor a hassle for showing you places and showing you apartments. Just go there, see your real FICO score. Now they can say, okay, you're credit-wise worthy for me to show you properties, and you're good to go.
Yeah. That's great information. Right?
That's awesome.
So much to learn about credit, and I'm sure that if we sat here to talk about credit, we'd be here for a couple more hours, right?
Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely.
Well, we really appreciate you coming by. Always welcome. Always a good time when we're hanging out with you. Always, every time we meet with you, we're always learning something new. So we're happy because we know that the people that we send you are always learning as well, and the people that you meet are always going to be learning from you as well. And we believe in this process of educating people. If you, especially you, because I know you're a very educated man and you care to learn, you read, you listen to audio books and all that stuff. So in turn, you can go and bless somebody else with the initial knowledge to get them started in their own learning process. So we appreciate that in you.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys inviting me here, for the folks that's following, you're on Instagram and Facebook as well, right?
Yeah.
And so are you, Dan?
Yes.
All right, great.
100%.
Yeah, and we're gonna put your information down below,
Okay.
So people can contact you for life advice, because we know that you're gonna give it to them without a problem, right? And then you can also bless them with some credit information, and if they want to join your team and be a credit officer, then they can do that as well. We'll leave all your contact information down
No, I
below.
appreciate you guys, and thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Carnell.
That's the first time somebody shakes our hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is great, man. I really appreciate you guys, for having me here. And what I love about you guys is, one thing we have in common is that, we believe in our higher power.
Absolutely.
Right? And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be here today. So thank you again for having me here on the show. Look forward to coming back a third time. Right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, this is Mr. Carnell Newsome blessing us with some credit information here. And don't forget, like and subscribe. Share this with somebody that you may think need credit support. They can freely reach out to Carnell, and Carnell's going to guide them in the right direction. Once again, thank you for being here. Do us a favor, please, once again, share, subscribe. We need to grow this channel so we can reach more people. And we'll see you next time.